Welcome to the Fort Collins Fellows podcast, from Colorado State University to New Belgium Brewery, and the hundreds of miles of hiking and biking trails. Fort Collins has earned its well-deserved reputation as one of the top places to live in the United States. Join the fellas as they uncover the stories, places, and people that make Fort Collins so extraordinary.
Now, we are recording this podcast about 11:15, so it might be a little early to pop a bottle, but we are honored and joy to have today Spring 44 owner Jeff Lindauer, and we are going to talk deep about how the Colorado Rockies can serve not just the best beer, with the Napa Valley of beer being Fort Collins, but also some amazing gin and vodka. So Jeff, thank you for joining us today and on Fort Collins Fellows.
It's my pleasure, and I'll go ahead and say that it's really never too early. I mean, as long as you've got some orange juice or Bloody Mary mix, I mean, you can rationalize.
There.
So I don't want to say it's too early.
Right. Jeff, talk to me a little bit about yourself, and how you got into the distillery business and Spring 44, if you wouldn't mind.
Absolutely. So if you would have told me a dozen years ago that I'd be on a podcast talking to you about a distillery business, I would have told you were drunk. It was one of those things that really evolved and was inspired by this incredible resource that is on some property my father bought in the late 60s. And so it's not like I woke up one day and said, hey, I really want to build a distillery. It was something that evolved from this incredible spring that was unexpected, and I didn't see it coming, and it started out sort of as a bit of a sort of a side project, and now it's completely consumed my entire life. So my dad, he was a huge outdoorsman, and he was into all things. So hunting and fishing and camping. He was a technical climber, early days, and so I guess kind of an early days ex sports guy. I grew up on a farm early in western Nebraska. We moved to Fort Collins when I was a little kid in grammar school, and so he went looking for property that was as remote as he could find, and he found it up the Buckhorn Canyon. And so, taking me there since I was a little kid, he would take me on those long hikes, and he really built and developed an appreciation for the outdoors in me. I will say that at the time I probably didn't have the same amount of appreciation. I just wanted those legs to stop. They just wouldn't stop. And so as we hiked above timberline, and that said, he taught me how to start a fire in a rainstorm, and how to shelter, and all the things that go along with being an outdoorsman. And so I did develop a great appreciation for it. That said, he found some property that is up the Buckhorn. It's just this side of Pennock Pass. You go over Pennock Pass to go to Pingree Park, where CSU's extension campus is. And it's on East White Pine Mountain, which is almost 11,000 feet. And so it's at 9,000 feet on an 11,000 foot mountain. And it's just 40 acres of this really pristine property. And we're surrounded by 150,000 acres of Roosevelt National Forest. So it's a little island of private. They did that back in the 30s. They spread those around with the agreement that people would run some sort of ag on it. And obviously in this case, it was cattle. And so it's a pretty smart program the government did, because it was, you got people to homestead, and then they generated grazing revenue, because obviously the cattle would drift off, off the private. So that's how the property came to be. And my father bought it. He bought it from the guy that homesteaded it. And I had a boyhood dream that I was going to build a home there. And he always made a lot of fun of me about that, because to access the property off the Buckhorn Road, off of County Road 44H, it's a 3.5 mile long 4-wheel drive trail that goes up 2,000 feet of vertical, roughly.
Oh.
So, it's not, maybe it wasn't really the most practical.
You're gonna have to
place.
helicopter in that lumber.
Yeah, exactly. So that said, in 2004, I decided to pursue my dream. I had a career in tech. I was early days with MCI, which nobody remembers probably. Well, actually, people of a certain age group will remember that. But so I was in telecom and bounced around for a while. And anyway, at a certain point, I decided that I wanted to pursue, my boyhood dream. And I was living in at the time, I kind of was living in the Bay Area. And people would ask me, hey, what resort is this close to that you're building this place? And I was like, well, it's not really so much, that. And so, why don't you buy a place in Tahoe? You can drive your car there. And that said, I have zero regrets about pursuing it. It was a long project. It took 3 years, and a little bit of an engineering challenge. Just getting materials in was probably about half the job. And it's very modest, but it's got all the creature comforts, obviously all off grid. Mm-hmm. And so I can, it was close. It's never done up there. We have 2 seasons up at Spring 44. It's winter and construction. So it's never, it's one of the two. Yep. So it's never really done. That said, I was up there with a buddy right after we finished, and said, hey, we got to go drink from the spring, because our whole lives growing up, that became a tradition. We kind of a ritual. We would park at the bottom and hike up. The road wasn't really developed at all. It was more of just a horse trail. So we'd throw packs on our backs and hike up the mountain. And obviously there was a spring, and so my dad got it tested. He took it to the city. You didn't want us to get giardia, right? Or
sure,
whatever.
Yeah. Smart. Smarter
than
what I would do.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, so the guy at the city was like, hey, it's better than the tap water, go for it. And so we never had to haul water in, right? We never had to pack in water. That was our water source. It was also our fridge. We'd put milk or beer or whatever in there, and it kept ice cold. Right now, you can drop it in there, and it's in the low 40s, maybe around 44 degrees. Okay. And so that said, it became this ritual that we always observe. So I take my buddy there, and he was super excited about going and to hiking to the spring. And we drank, and he has some kind of complete out of body experience, and said, oh my God, this water is incredible. And I said, yeah. And he said, no, you don't understand. I'm an expert in water. And I was like, oh, okay. And he might have maybe taken a little bit of an offense to that. And he said, no, I'm a water aficionado. And I said, I don't think there's a thing as that. And anyway, it turns out that he was a complete and total nerd about water. He'd been buying bottled water from all over the world, and had this big library of books, and was into it from every possible angle. So he said, you got to do something with this. This is incredible. And I was like, yeah, right. And he's like, no, I'm serious. Anyway, I said something along the lines of, I think, you're buzzed, which is true. And so yeah. So the next morning, we're having coffee, and he's like, hey, I'm really serious about this. And I am too, it's a seriously not a great idea. And anyway, one thing led to another, and he ultimately convinced me, and we ended up looking at the bottled water business. I knew nothing about it, and so the idea was to send this, or to bottle this very high end, bottled water and have it be a premium position product. And about the same time, I sorted out that we'd have to sell this, looking at a business model for, whatever, $6 or $8 or something like that, at retail to make a go of it, was about the same time I actually did decide that it was a colossally stupid idea. So I punted on that. And about that same time, I was at a family reunion on our ranch in Western Nebraska, talking to my cousin, and he'd recently sold his business. He did pretty well. He built up a little chain of homebrew stores. And I just mentioned off the cuff that we were looking at doing this, crazy idea of bottling the water from the spring. And he said, "Oh, you should sort out how well suited it is to rectifying." I was like, "You should probably speak English because I don't understand what you're saying." And he gave me this huge education on water, that an 80 proof bottle of water is 60%, or I'm sorry, an 80 proof bottle of spirits is 60% whatever you're bringing it to proof with, to get to, and that most brewers, distillers have to do something, there's buffering and conditioning, that has to happen, that it's, pH is obviously very important, but so is minerality and total dissolved solids. There's a whole bunch of things there. And so I was like, okay, so I sell my water to, brewers or distillers. And he said, you got to check this whole craft thing out that's starting to happen. Beer paved the way. Mm-hmm. That's already going to be approaching a 20 share or whatever the market is. And spirits will follow. It's legit. It's going to be a real, and this is like 07. He's like, go check out this brand. It's called Tito's, which, as you know, or probably know now, is, the largest brand in the United States. Well, it's arguably, probably one of the largest success stories, in beverage. But that said, that captured my imagination. And so we got together with some distillers, knowing nothing about this, and kind of wanted to prove the whole water thing out. So we put a few focus groups together. We did a bunch of stupid stuff, wasted some money, but we did one smart thing. We got people to opt in who said they were whatever, fill in the blank, premium spirits drinkers. So, I'm Goose or Belvedere or Absolute or whatever. And then, same thing with gin, I'm Bombay or Beefeater or Tanqueray or whatever it was. And after a bunch of failed things, we figured it out. We had them. There was only 2 questions we asked. So we sat them in a room. We put a flight in front of them, and this was blind. And the first question we asked is, can you identify, because that helped inform the second question. Can you pick which one of these is your vodka or your gin? Vodka people, a little less accurate at doing that than the gin people. But that said, the second question we asked was, rank these now. Put them in order of 1 to 4 or 5 or however many happen to be in that sample set. And we won a lot. We won enough that we felt like there was some statistical validity to the fact that the whole water thing, mattered.
Yeah.
And so in 2009, we kind of began, building around a business plan and figuring out how we do this. We formed in 2010 and opened the distillery in 11, and our first sales were in 2011. So it's been 12 years since that time. It was like I said, it's one of those things that I didn't really see it coming. It just sort of evolved based on this really cool resource that was on property my father bought, a long time ago. And I feel very grateful. I'm just very fortunate. I've gotten to do cool things in my life. I've been super lucky. The teams that I've worked with, the team that I work with here included, I'm kind of the supporting cast to some really, really strong people that are part of the Spring 44 team here. That said, I've been very fortunate, and I've gotten to do cool things in terms of building, some businesses of consequence, but I've never done anything that I've been as passionate about as this little thing. It's this really cool intersection of disciplines, that are all very interesting and diverse, and it's just been a really, really satisfying journey.
And it seems as though you were more opposed to it than anything. You were so kind of like not, and it was just kind of kept on coming back up as like, no, this could be something. And did your due diligence, like you said. I think all of us who have either started a business or have done some type of entrepreneurial journey, thrown bad money, or throw good money at bad ideas. But ultimately, one of those kind of, you have to be willing, you're entrepreneurial and taking those chances and ideas and risks. And but it just kept coming back up and up of, this spring water is really a good source and potentially could be used in this up and coming industry of distilling, spirits. So, and Fort Collins, what a great community that seems to really want to support that kind of endeavor, with it being a beer lover and open to the idea of maybe spirits.
For sure. There's a huge halo as part in terms of Fort Collins, Northern Colorado, in terms of just craft in general, and then really that willingness to explore and experiment and then ultimately support craft more specifically and more hyper, which is the local thing. And so we were super fortunate that this whole thing was centric to exactly where we are in this community. Love, obviously I'm very biased, having spent the majority of my life connected to this place and this geography, and then having the place up there, right? So obviously biased. That said, I think that there are that it's very real that the people of Northern Colorado, Fort Collins, are extraordinary, and that has been very supportive to our brand building, without a question.
So 2007, you started.
And we're not alone in that, right? We're not alone. Yeah, our story is consistent.
Yes.
Right. That's not a Spring 44 story. That's a story that you can apply to a lot of businesses that have been started here. A lot of entrepreneurs have benefited from exactly the same thing.
We released a podcast with Zach Roth. He's a CPA, born and raised here in Northern Colorado. Has grown his firm, to 7 people. And that was what we were, talking about pretty in depth, was if you have some sort of drive and you want to work hard and you've got an idea, like the Northern Colorado is a great melting pot of businesses, and you can be very successful if you want to, with a lot of community support. So I definitely agree, with that. So 2004, you began building on your property. 2007, it completed. 8 and 9, you kind of started going around with this idea of potentially distilling, and 2011 Spring 44 started. Who was the first customers that were willing to take a try on Spring 44?
They're right here. I there are a number, but just so I want to say that social hadn't quite started yet, which is a big shout out to Ty and what they have done there. Just an outstanding, not just by Fort Collins or North
Nationally.
Colorado, but by national standards.
Yeah.
But I want to say that maybe one of our first accounts was Henry's in Loveland,
Okay.
on 4th Street. And Brian does a great job there. And then we probably had within, that first year, I think Wilbur's was, a very early, adopter, still obviously a terrific account. And McGrath's,
McGrath's. Do you know Zach
yeah,
Jordan by chance?
exactly. And that are still customers to,
Yeah.
more than a decade, right? Later, like Liquor Max and World Beverage, those were also, very early customers that, we still enjoy their support. So, and now
Started relatively.
in the state, I think we're around 1,200 or so accounts, across the state.
And are you national?
We are. We're not in every single market, but we recently, just very recently, we signed a national distribution deal with Southern Wine and Spirits, and they have, I think they have 38 states. We went to New York very shortly after we started, because you know what they say, if you can make it there.
You can wear it.
And so and then we went to California, really focused initially on building. It wasn't on the trying to build a consumer brand, and get on every retail shelf. It was really more focusing on the kind of the restaurant and the cocktail scene, building those relationships and kind of earning credibility there. We were fortunate. There's a guy, his name is Paul Picault. He's, I guess, arguably kind of like the Robert Parker of spirits, if you will, or he has a credible claim to that. And, publishes a list of the top 120 spirits in the world, actually. And it's of all spirits types. So, number 1 could be a single malt, number 11 could be a mezcal or whatever. And he put us on the list. So he came here, and he was going to be here for a few minutes with his entourage, and ended up staying for a couple of hours and kind of geeking out with our guys. And so we were fortunate to win. We won gold medals and that kind of thing. But more so, we sort of got that credibility established in terms of the critical reviews on our product, but more importantly was the engagement with our customers. And so we've been lucky that Nobu, for instance, they're obviously kind of high end white tabletop national account of ours, where we're we are their house vodka, and we're in their highest selling cocktail, the lychee martini, and then the same thing with a lot of other brands like that are recognizable in terms of the on-premise or the restaurant and bar scene, like the Four Seasons, etc. So we've been fortunate that way, where our footprint is expanding, and we're now I think in 18 states. But our heart and soul is here. We're very much a Colorado. I mean, we've got the Colorado flag on our bottle. That is the message that we want to send to from a marketing standpoint. It's to differentiate ourselves by what our provenance is. The terroir, the water thing is real.
Yeah,
it is differentiated, and so just to, I guess, tie off that point. Sorry, I'm rambling a little bit here.
Great.
But we built our credibility, I think, with winning some awards and getting some good recognition, but then mostly with the types of accounts that we were able to establish. And now we're moving into more of kind of trying to get our consumer marketing out there. And we've not struggled so much as deliberated what is the most what's the most effective way for us to do that in a market that is so crowded? And so what we're doing is consistent with this place, with where we are in Northern Colorado. Our Instagram, which is at Spring 44 Distilling, we do a couple of things. We sort of show, hey, here's what's going on at the distillery. Here's, this is what we're doing today, the type of thing where if we're distilling or bottling or, whatever is happening around here. We show what's happening with our customers, and with cocktails that they're creating or things that consumers share. But by far, what people gravitate to the most is what we call our spring cam, which we have cameras up by the spring that are motion activated. And so they're constantly recording whatever's going on up there. And so this last season, like with prior seasons, the big thing is what's going on with the baby moose, because they're, every year for several years, there's a cow that, has, a calf that, is wandering around up there. And, same thing with the elk and the deer, and, we get bears and, mountain lions and the whole thing. And so the reason we do that is to sort of connect people to this real place, this real resource. That it's not, a manufactured story of, my grandfather's recipe or whatever. It is actually this real thing that exists here in this extraordinary place that is Northern Colorado. And so that's that's the flag, that's our banner, that's what we're wearing. And what's cool about it is how genuine it is. Just like we were talking about the people and that being a real thing, it is an actual attribute. It is a real characteristic that is, in my opinion, relatively profound.
Well, we were chatting before we jumped on the recording about, the Coors and the breweries, and, they've got the Rocky Mountains that turn blue. And I think people appreciate that. And, coffee's another one. It's like, man, it's a big portion of what your, coffee's made of is the water. And so I think people appreciate that, and seeing where it comes from, and being at 9,000 feet of an 11,000 foot, peak type deal is you're getting it from the source, and it definitely resonates with people. As far as, marketing and branding go, I know it's like super popular right now, but you've got The Rock with Terramana, Conor McGregor with Proper 12, George Clooney with I think it's Casamigos, and you've got these influential people that, billions of dollars. It's just wild, some of these numbers. You're probably not oblivious to that by any means, but is that something to where you see it going on a consumer brand, as far as like you're a household name like Tito's, or do you want to stay 18 states, or is the goal to grow?
No, the goal is to grow while maintaining the integrity of our product and the quality. Yeah, meaning that's job one, right? Mm-hmm. Well, beyond the safety, right? The safety of our humans. Sure. That's actually job one. But then it is maintaining a high level of quality. One thing we like to say around here is we take what we do very, very seriously, but not ourselves.
Yeah.
You start doing that, and then, things can go sideways in a hurry. But sure. So it is to maintain a high level of quality and integrity in our products, and then grow as we can support that. And if that growth is geometric, like some of the brands that you just said, then yeah, we're not happy to do that, but it needs to not be at the expense, of compromising anything in terms of qualitatively. In terms of the celebrity stuff, we like to joke that our celebrity is this hole in the ground up there, right? It's our celebrity is the spring.
Yeah.
That said, if a favorite Red Rocks, if Dave Matthews said he wanted to, support Spring 44, we probably wouldn't tell him that.
Entertain.
But yeah, but that said, that we're not, actively trying to pursue that. We're building, the brand
Well, it sounds like you're very
to stand on its own, right?
Yeah.
To stand on its own from a qualitative standpoint, and we think that we've done that to date.
Now you guys have vodka, you guys have gin. Do you guys have kind of the idea of exploring other spirits?
We make everything. As a matter of fact, we just bottled some rye. We just pulled some rye out of bottles that have been sitting around for 4 years, and some single malt. We decided to really pick a lane and focus, and so we're a white spirits company. We make other stuff. There's other things that are around here, and we'll sell those as we do produce them. But in terms of our focus, it is really vodka and gin. We're in that lane. We have 3 different gins and 2 vodkas. Our vodka that I mentioned that got put on that list of top 120 spirits in the world. Then we have a honey vodka, which has been extremely popular. We actually source our honey from a co-op that's about 1.5 miles from here, and we also get honey from the Buckhorn Canyon. There's a producer up there that is close enough that their bees actually range to our property. And so there's this cool kind of thing going on where the bees are drinking from, are getting nectar from, flowers that are, being,
property.
They are right. That Spring 44 is, whatever. There's a circle of life thing there. Anyway, and it's very interesting. A lot of people approach that product and they expect something really, really sweet or cloying, and it's neither of those. It's very, very comey. I mean, there's obviously there's honey itself is sweet. That said, it's not this over the top.
It's not gonna be your Burnett's cherry vodka that you pour in when you're 18 hammers.
Exactly, and it is a distillate. So we actually make the distillate from real honey instead of ordering, from Acme Flavoring Company. Could we get the honey flavor? We're producing a distillate here. Then we have 3 gins. Spring 44 gin, very straightforward. It's in terms of juniper, it's kind of like an American London dry, if you will. Just a few botanicals behind the juniper that have some really nice citrus notes and sort of a nice, sort of peppery finish. There's some nutmeg in there. It's a workhorse gin, very, very straightforward. And then we have a mountain gin, which it's very bright. It's a party in your mouth. There's, peppermint and basil and orange peel and clove, and it's very big, very bright. It makes some great cocktail. Makes a great last word. Makes a great aviation. And then we have an Old Tom gin, which is
that one's a little bit more brownish, isn't it?
Yeah, it's barrel aged, and we spent a lot of time trying to decide exactly how we should age that product. Old Tom it's an interesting category. It goes back, to 18th century England, and the 2 things that Old Tom are supposed to be is aged and sweetened, and so we didn't like what charred barrels did, so we settled on a toasted barrel, so more like a Chardonnay, or it is a Chardonnay barrel. And it has a very interesting botanical bill in there's fresh grapefruit peel, fresh rosemary, lemongrass, galangal, some orris root, which when that's coming off the parrot, if you taste that, it's a natural analgesic, so you can't really talk if you've recently had some of that in your mouth. And we sweeten with some organic amber agave nectar. It's very small amounts, less than 1%, by volume. And it is produced well, we like to say that gin met whiskey made baby. And actually, we touched on social.
Yeah.
They recently selected a barrel. They are now making, they have a cocktail there called the
What's the cocktail called?
No-Co Sling. So go
No
have that.
Coastling.
Yeah, yeah. And they have bottles of that there at Social. So anyway, 3 different gins, 2 vodkas. So it's a little broader than just saying gin and vodka, but
Yep.
we're definitely focused on those 2 products.
And if somebody is wanting to get a taste of Spring 44 or into drinking gin, how would you best recommend that they do it? It's like, all right, you guys should go to Social to get
Sure.
somebody to help you
So
through, or maybe
yeah,
a
so
tasting.
our website has a list of every place that we are of all of our accounts, in Colorado. And so we likely have distribution very close to where anybody happens to be. A lot of places, yeah, here in northern Colorado that so either at a bar or restaurant, and a lot of good retail partners as well. So that's a great resource for doing that.
And
And
would you say,
we sell bottles from we don't run an open tasting room, but we do sell bottles directly out of the distillery. And so if people want to swing by the distillery to pick up a bottle, and we can do a quick tasting, we're happy to do that as well.
and that was what I was going to ask is, so maybe you drank before you got rocking and rolling with Spring 44, but over the last 12 years since you guys opened up in 2011, have you became a vodka and gin connoisseur of sorts that like you can really taste that, hey, this bottle's off or this barrel was off, and have you became kind of a tasting expert?
Yeah, because we do have to taste every batch, right? And so yes. Now that can also lead to, when the dog is eating his own dog food, of course he likes it, right? And so
Sure.
you've got to balance that by enjoying other products. And there are so many other awesome distributors or suppliers, here in the state of Colorado. Todd Leopold does an incredible job. So that you have to balance what you're doing with what other producers are doing as well. That said, I wasn't really a hard spirits human before. I was more beer and wine,
Mm-hmm.
and so that palate did have to develop for me. And yeah, there is a clear difference. A lot of people will just think vodka's vodka, and it actually isn't true. And I would invite people to take the Pepsi challenge and stack up against Spring 44.
And can that palate, this is I'm asking personally here because
Sure.
like I've always like I get gifts of whiskey all the time, and I mean I'll drink it and I'll enjoy it, but I'm like, would I take it over an Arnold Palmer? No. But like there's absolutely, now will that palate appreciate it as you explore that path?
Yes. Yeah, it definitely will. When drinking spirits, it will fatigue faster than the palate does fatigue faster than if you are only doing it with like wine. You can go through more flights, if you will, just because the proof is so much higher. That said, the answer to your question is yes, absolutely. Palate does develop. You can gain a appreciation, in particular for attributes that are more tactile, like mouthfeel and finish. I never know what does smooth mean. That gets used a lot.
There's no rocks in this water.
I don't know what is smooth, but I guess it means that you're not coughing, right?
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha.
but there, the creaminess, or spiciness, whether that finish lingers or whether it's more abrupt. I mean, there are there are a bunch of different attributes that relate directly to spirits, including white goods. Gin, obviously, vodka's obviously may be more subtle, but there is a big difference without, naming names. There are vodkas that if you drink that, you will. It's a lot more of a
Burnett's.
Yeah, well, it's more petroleum.
Okay.
You're right in terms of your experience, right? It's rather than where there's almost a softness to it, or real flavor. And so gin, the botanicals, now that's more where if you were going to say, hey, look, here's a great Pilsner, or here's a Hefeweizen, here's an IPA, and then within each of those there's obviously a broad range. So I would liken that a little bit more there, or as you would with wine if you're looking at Pinot or a Cab or whatever.
Gotcha. And so there's plenty of opportunities for people to explore Spring 44. And is there any cap? Now, water is a big deal in Colorado, so I'd have to assume you've got some pretty decent water rights up there. Is there any cap to your production? Like, hey, we can only make so many. Like, there's
a great question. So, I was really fortunate. My dad had the foresight to get the water rights.
Yep.
That was
huge.
I mean, good luck today, right? That it's a different story today.
$160,000 a share these days
right.
in the city of Fort Collins.
No, you're right. It's a completely different story today than it was, in 1969. That said, yes is the answer. It's measured in acre feet. It is not a throttle well, I should say it this way. When that becomes a
deposit problem.
Yeah, right. Exactly. When that becomes an issue, we'll sort it out with our pricing.
Yeah.
It's not,
yeah.
It's that's and right now, and if you go on our Instagram, and so we've got a few different vehicles in the fleet that we use to haul water. Mavis is a 3,500 Dodge flatbed. She goes up right now, dualies, and has a 650 gallon tank, on the back. So she goes up, we pull up to the pump house. Everything that we do up there is run off grid, right? So we're solar powered for everything that exists, including our water ops, pumping operations. And so we go up and grab water and come down, and then winter rolls around, right? And so we got 4 feet of snow to deal with, and that is where enter Tinkerbell. So you got to go check Tinkerbell out. Tink is a tank. She's an F-250 that's massively modified.
Oh, I think I did see
she's on tracks.
Yes.
Right. So mat tracks are king. They are not denied, right? And so she's got a big tank on the back as well. And so Tinkerbell, during the winter, when the road is not passable by mere humans, we get out, we park Mavis, we get out, get into Tink, and she goes up and we grab water and bring it down the hill. So there's a strong commitment to making sure,
like you said, number one is safety. I mean, clearly.
Absolutely. And tipping over up there with 5,000 pounds of water on your back is probably less than desirable. Nobody wants to taste their own blood. So we're fairly committed to making sure that we can maintain our quality and our supply. And so we've had to augment the right vehicles to do the job.
And what is your favorite cocktail?
So, that's such a tough one. I
Would
would
it be
say,
like spitting on a good gin if I did like a gin and tonic? Is that like you can't pour a good whiskey into a Coke, can you? That's like you might
right.
as well get slapped across the
Yeah.
face.
So I should probably say the NOCO sling, but so in my very sophisticated palate, I enjoy actually pouring a couple of fingers neat of our Old Tom gin, and then having the beer of your choice, right next to that,
Okay.
and so sipping on Old Tom, and then your favorite local, right, Colorado brew, and so that's a great pastime. That said, I think our mountain gin is extraordinary in a Negroni. Negroni week is coming up here. It's so bright and it really shines through. It gets happy with whatever the modifier is, whether that's Campari, but it gets very happy there. Our honey vodka, it just recently has found a very happy place in the espresso martini world.
Wow.
And so we have a few accounts that have adopted that and say, hey, we're going to use the honey vodka in our espresso martini, and it is delicious.
Is it at Elliott's?
Yes.
There you
And
go.
and it also makes a fantastic mule. The honey vodka, goes with the
That sounds
ginger
good.
well. It's super versatile. So kind of anything citrus, swizzly, etc. So yeah, it's hard for me to really pick a favorite, but the I think the mountain gin and a Negroni, we got Negroni week coming up here, is a great call.
All right, Jeff. Well, we end every episode with a same question. Now, it's a little bit unique because, well, you're a cocktail and spirits kind of guy, but the question will remain on a Friday afternoon, sunny afternoon. Where are you going to enjoy a beverage after a long week worth of work?
Wow, that's a great question. Thank you for asking that. I think if I was going to have a cocktail, I'd go to Social. If I was doing like a happy hour thing, I think I'd do either Union or McGrath's, a great spot. I think if I was going to go watch a game, maybe I'd go to Grey Rock. I'm probably missing people, but a great sports bar there. Let's just say that that it was lunch that was the end of the day. Shall we?
I like it.
So maybe that's like AKA Kitchen or Henry's. I should definitely call out Henry's on 4th Street in Loveland. And while I'm at that, the 4th Street Chop House.
Okay.
Awesome.
That's a great one.
And so that's an excellent spot. So yeah, if I was having dinner there, or potentially Rare Italian is also a great spot. They've got an aged Negroni on the menu that is killer.
I got a set of buddies who go to Rare weekly, and I'm a little secret. I have not been to Rare for dinner yet.
You need to do it.
We'll get out there right away.
I mean, it's outstanding. And I guess the other thing is, if I was golfing, I'd probably do either Harmony, the golf club there, or Mackenzie's at the Southridge Golf Club.
Totally.
Those are both really, really solid spots. And so, I mean, I don't know. It's tough to nail that down. I think,
yeah.
I mean, part of what we're trying to do, obviously, is build, our business, with bars and restaurants as well as at retail. And, so Liquor Max and World Beverage in Loveland and Wilbur's and Wyatt's. Wyatt's is in Longmont, but Wilbur's in Fort Collins. And then Brands Beverage, I think, in Windsor is doing great. And Fishes, in Fort Collins. I mean, we've got some good stuff going on with all of those folks. And so
it's funny you start naming some of those names.
To answer your question, you could go to any of those places and then enjoy your beverage on your own porch.
Ooh. Well, I think with having a spot in the woods like you've got in the mountains that's just a little slice of heaven, I think you really can't go wrong. And it's funny, Danny at Mackenzie's on Southridge, there's so many good people at all the places I don't know if I told you, but one of my agents, Zach, worked at McGrath's for a decade or more and has great friends at the Chop House in Loveland. So, all the places you just started naming names and, you're checking boxes at how great they can be. So we're definitely lucky here in Northern Colorado, have a fair amount of a good amount of good establishments. And it sounds like you can find Spring 44 in any of those. Is that true?
That I think for the most part, that is an accurate statement. And yeah, I mean, I wouldn't, I'm saying things off the top of my head, and I'm going to be mad at myself later that, I missed places, but yeah, we're widely available in Northern Colorado. And so, yeah. And as I said earlier, we are so grateful that we are part of this community that is so strong, so solid. I pinch myself that this whole thing started in an environment that my dad, had the foresight, unintentionally to create, that evolved to a business that exists with these people. It's we're lucky to live here. That's a fact.
100%. Well, I appreciate your time this afternoon, and we'll provide links for Spring 44 on Instagram. I'm sure folks are going to go check out you at Social, at Union, Rare Italian. I might have to make a reservation sooner than later to go enjoy a drink and some wonderful dinner. But I definitely appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Take care.
Bye.